Hi everybody, it's Laura. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have a layout that I made for the December Stamp It Like It's Hot hop. And in this hop, which is hosted by My Life on Paper, we take a prompt that has to do with stamping and we create a scrapbooking layout. The prompt changes every month, and this month the prompt is to stamp a title. I highly recommend that you check out all of the December Stamp It Like It's Hot videos. You can do that very easily by accessing the playlist that's in the description box. And then while you're there, you might want to check out some of the previous months as well. So this layout had a lot of disastrous things happen. First of all, the background that I'm creating, I made for a different layout, and I ended up really disliking it greatly, and I actually took it and put it in my scrapbooking garbage. And later on, I took it out and I thought I'll probably be able to use this background for something, but it definitely didn't work out for the first layout that I made it for. To make this background, I started off with my standard piece of 120-pound smooth white cardstock that I gessoed with some Liquitex gesso. And then I started to use whatever gold sprays that I had in my stash. I used Lindy's Starburst spray called Golden Sleigh Bells. That was the only spray that I had that was kind of the yellowish color that I was looking for. And then I also had some Heidi Swapp Color Shine, so I added some splatters of that. And then I wanted to add some other shades of gold, so I used two Shimmerz Color Splash Sprays. I used Back in the Saddle, that's the darker color, and I also used a little bit of Gold Digger 2, which is a little bit of a lighter color gold. And then once I had used the packaging technique and applied those sprays and then did lots of splatters, I wanted to add some white splatters as well. So I watered down some white acrylic paint and I used this fan brush and I made lots of tiny splatters of white all over the background. Sometimes I like to use my gel plate and make some backgrounds, and I did that for a layout that I made for my creative scrapbook for December. But I usually don't make just one background. I'll usually do some gel printing on a number of papers. And so I had a couple of extra papers left over, and I thought that I would use this particular background. I don't film myself when I'm gel printing most of the time because I usually spend a really long time adding lots of layers to my papers. But if anyone is interested in seeing any gel printing, please let me know. I'd be happy to make a video about that. So I used my Creative Memories circle cutter and I cut a mat out of an off-white paper. And then I cut the circle a little bit larger in that blue gel printed paper. And I'm going to put the gold paper behind that. And those are going to be the papers that I use on my layout. When I was cutting the circle into the blue paper, my hand slipped and I kind of messed up the circle. So it's a little imperfect. I did my best to fix it, but it's still a little bit off. But it's okay. You don't end up seeing it in the final product. I added a lot of ATG adhesive to the back of the blue paper, and then I carefully layered it on top of the off-white paper. And then I cut about 1/4 of an inch off of each side of the gold paper. And because the gold paper is a little bit smaller, I don't have to worry about lining up all the edges perfectly. When I'm layering papers like this and I don't cut the paper that's in the back a little bit smaller, I feel like I never line everything up correctly, and you can always see the paper that's supposed to be in the back from the front. I have to cut it off, so this just makes it a little bit easier. The photo that I end up using for this layout is another element that I was going to use on another layout, but then ended up not using. So I already had it cut to size. I mounted it on some off-white cardstock, the same cardstock I used to make the mat on my circle. And then I also mounted it on some silver glitter paper, and that's Heidi Swapp paper. I've had this, I think it's an 8x8 inch pad for many years, and I finally found a use for it. And then I put a nice thick piece of cardstock behind that, and then I popped it up on some fun foam. This is the color palette for this layout. I have a dark blue, gold, silver, And then I have some papers that are a little off-white and some elements that are white. I know some people don't like mixing those two colors, but it doesn't really bother me if I have white and off-white elements on the same layout. I looked in my stash of stars and I found that I had quite a few silver chipboard stars. Some of them are from Recollections, some of them are from Ms. Sparkle. I feel like that might be a Joann's brand. And I have them in a couple of different sizes. So I started off by adding a couple of the larger sizes. I have some on the top and some on the bottom. And my idea was not to put the stars exactly in the middle. I wanted the ones on the top to be slightly off to the left and the ones on the bottom to be slightly off to the right. I thought that that would make it a little more, not asymmetrical, but maybe a little bit more unexpected in placement. And I'm trying to think about that when I create a composition. I don't want everything to be just smack dab in the middle, although that's something that I do all the time, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it could be interesting to try to make things a little bit different than just having everything centered. After I placed the 3 larger stars on the top and the bottom, I went in with some smaller stars and I placed those in between and on either side of those larger stars. Since I knew I was going to be layering a lot of stars on top of each other, I wanted the first layer to be attached down. So I used some ATG adhesive and I attached down those first larger stars. And now I'm adding a whole bunch of other little stars, as I said, in between and on either side. I also added some stars in between the 2 clusters. I don't end up leaving those there. I will put some glue on the back of those stars that are between the 2 clusters, but I decided pretty quickly that I didn't want to commit to having those stars there because I felt like I might want to put another embellishment in those spots. So I do end up reusing those stars and putting them on other places in the layout, but I just decided against those pretty quickly. So I worked for a while on layering the stars. You're going to see some stars move around a little bit, but I just wanted to have a nice layering of stars. In addition to the silver stars, I had a couple of white stars and I thought that would break up the silver stars a little bit. So I incorporated a couple on the top cluster and a few on the bottom cluster as well. My daughter Danielle and I are pretty addicted to going to a place called Retake Remake. It's called a creative reuse center. It's basically like a thrift store for used and some cases new art supplies and also scrapbooking and sewing supplies. And so Danielle found these buttons that are shaped like snowflakes and she asked me if I would want them. And so I grabbed them. I thought they were perfect for this project. The buttons were 2 different sizes. It was very easy to use my scissors and cut off the back and then layer them in with all of those stars. I'm a real fan of these creative reuse centers. We just had another one pop up not too far from our house. They seem to be showing up in a lot of places, and I think that they're great because you might find things there that you would never think to buy if you went shopping in a regular store or even went shopping online. So it's something that I really enjoy doing. And this is a perfect example. I got buttons. I never would have thought to look for buttons, and they came in really handy for this project. I had some stars in my jewel stash. They're from Hobby Lobby. I got them on some kind of a big clearance a while back. And they're super pretty. They have a jewel in the middle and they're sparkly all around them. So I layered a couple of those on top of the stars that I had in my clusters. And then I also took out these snowflake stickers. I only used, I think, maybe 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom because I wanted to add just a different kind of element mixed in with all of those stars. And I thought that these went along really well. I love glossy accents as an adhesive. I'm using it here to attach all of the snowflake buttons down. I also used it to glue those star jewels down to the stars. You may know if you work with glitter that things don't really stick too easily to anything that has glitter on it. So I didn't expect those jewels that are stars to stick down to those glittered stars without a little bit of adhesive. I always like to add photo corners to my layouts. not every single layout, but most layouts end up having some photo corners. I use my EK Success punch, and on this layout I used the gel printed paper that I cut out from the center of the circle, and I punched out some photo corners and attached those down. And now I'm adding some splatters to the layout. I knew I wanted the splatters to be very small, so I'm using a fan brush, and I added a lot of water to my paint. I used two different colors of paint. They're both the Prima Art Alchemy Metallique colors. And I used white pearl for the first round of splatters. I added a lot of water. And then for the second round, I used ancient coin, which is a goldish color. And I once again used the fan brush and added lots and lots of tiny splatters. If you want the splatters to be a little bit bigger, you can use a larger sized brush, and also you can add a little bit less water to the paint. And I'm finding that a lot of these Prima colors that I have in my stash are getting a little dry, so I'm trying to use them up. I bought so many of these Prima colors many years ago, and I want to get a little bit of use out of them. So now comes the stamping part, finally. For this layout, I used a stamp pad that I got at that new Creative Reuse Center that I told you about. This was a brand new stamp pad when I got it. It's a Versa Magic stamp pad, and the color is Cornucopia. And I didn't really expect this color to be as gold as it is. So I stamped the title twice. First, I stamped it and then quickly covered it with some gold embossing powder. And then I used my heat tool and I heat embossed it. The impression turned out pretty well, I thought, but I also wanted to try stamping it without any embossing powder. So I stamped it one more time. And then because I really wasn't sure which of the two titles I was going to use, I ended up cutting out both of them. So I'm using my Cutter Bee scissors and I fussy cut around both of the titles. The title says A Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I am very sorry, I don't know who the manufacturer is of these stamps. I don't even remember where I got them at this point, but this sentiment fit really nicely right on top of the title underneath the stars. So I thought this would be perfect for this layout. So I ended up using the sentiment that I didn't add the glitter to because I guess I was thinking there's so much glitter on this layout. However, I still have the one with the glitter on it, and I might end up switching it out. I don't know. I like both of them very much. So I didn't really start this layout with a great big plan, and the layout looked very bare to me, and I kind of limited myself by having such a limited color palette here. So it finally dawned on me that I might want to add a banner going behind the photo. So I had this Martha Stewart paper in my stash again for a very long time. It is called a designer paper pad, and it has papers in it that are silver and gold. And I chose this silver paper to contrast with the gold background. This paper is double-sided. On one side is a silver print, and on the other side there's a off-white print with some silver in it. And I wasn't really sure which print I wanted to use for which part of the banner, which one should go in the center and which one should mat the banner. Once I cut the banner and the mat for the banner out, I was able to flip the papers over and try them both ways. And in the end, I decided that I wanted the off-white side with the silver swirls to be the part that you saw the most of, and then the matte to be the other side, which is the silver paper. I thought that the silver paper was a nice contrast with the background. So I attached the two papers together. I made a couple of little adjustments to my angles, and then I peeled up my photo and I attached the banner down behind it, and then I layered my photo back on top of the banner. And this is why I like to use the ATG adhesive on most of the elements on most of my pages, because when I change my mind, as I do on almost every layout, I can easily peel up elements I've attached down with ATG adhesive, or usually it's easy to peel them up, not always. And when I use the wet glue, I don't have that much flexibility. So I had to peel up some of the stars because the banner covered them, but then I just layered them on top of the banner just a little bit. And I think that that really helps to tie the banner in with the rest of the page. I think those little bits of stars that are overlapping the banner just helps to connect everything on the page. So I have my stamped title. I added some foam to the back to pop it up off the background and make it a little bit more visible. And then I began adding some of these jewels, which were another one of those Hobby Lobby clearance sale finds. These are gold and silver sparkly jewels in a couple of different sizes. I added some of the smaller gold jewels to each of the photo corners, and then some of the medium-sized jewels to either side of the banner. I was looking through my whole stash for something else that would match with this color scheme, and I found these little Jolie's Christmas trees. They weren't stickers, so I used some ATG adhesive to attach them down, and I used some smaller silver stars to put on top of them. And then I began adding more of those jewels to the stars. I added some gold ones and some silver ones. I wanted to have a little bit more gold on the page. I have that gold background and my title is stamped in a gold color, but I thought that it would be nice to have more gold jewels around the page. So I added not only the gold ones, but also the silver ones to a lot of those silver stars. I needed something in the upper right-hand corner to balance the trees in the lower left-hand corner, and my daughter Danielle suggested I put some stars there, and I thought that was a great idea. So I used some star dies that I had in my stash, and I cut out a larger star and a smaller star from some white glitter paper, and then I decided that I would cut out one additional smaller star and put that down by the Christmas trees. Once again, I feel like having that common element kind of makes everything go together. Instead of just having stars in one corner and trees in the other corner, it kind of creates a connection. Well, I wanted to add a touch of bling to those 3 new stars that I added, so I used these little tiny self-adhesive jewels that I have in my stash, and I added these little clear jewels to the centers of each of the stars. And that gave me the idea to add just a couple of these same jewels to the outer part of all of the clusters. So I cut these jewels, which come in strips, into individual pieces, and then I started to work a couple of them into both of the large clusters. And these strips of bling are made by a company called Angel's Crafts, and they're called stone stickers, and I find that these come in really handy when you want to add just a little touch of bling. They're very tiny, but they are also extremely shiny. Now, I don't know if you could tell from this video, but this layout from beginning to end was just kind of struggle. I really didn't have a plan going into it, and I was never sure what I was going to do next. I even ripped the smaller star that it was up at the top of the layout, so that wasn't a big deal. I just cut out another one and added some glue and placed it in that same spot where I had the first one. But I was very happy when this layout was complete because it did challenge me, but I am glad that I made it, and I'm super glad that I finally stamped a title. I don't ever remember stamping a title for a scrapbook layout before, and that's one of the great things about this particular hop. It has really encouraged me to take a look at my stamps and see how I could use them on my scrapbooking layouts, and that is such a gift because stamping on scrapbooking layouts is just so much fun, and it opens up so many possibilities. The December prompt of stamping a title is the last scheduled prompt for the Stamp It Like It's Hot hop. I have absolutely loved participating in this hop. I got started a little late, but I have enjoyed making every layout, and I've loved every prompt. Don't forget, the link to the Stamp It Like It's Hot playlist is in the description box, and I'm really looking forward to checking out all of the December videos, and I'm sure you'll really enjoy them too. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.